So Manchester United to Tottenham Hotspur to Manchester United actually started on the front foot. We really had a wonderful first half. We were really dominating in possession and out of position. But let's actually look at what happened in this game on a tactical point of view. So guys, let's actually look at the positive from the game. So firstly, we want to actually see what Manchester United was actually trying to do, how we were trying to stop Spurs from playing out from the back. So of course you already know that Spurs are going to build up from the back, and most of the times they are going to be very direct on Manchester United. So what Manchester United was looking to do was to actually press very well on the front foot. But Manchester United was not really pressing like we were pressing in previous games. So our pressing system was like Manchester United was not going to press until the Spurs central backs held the ball. So what Manchester United were looking to do was to monitor Tottenham Hotspur, and whenever the central backs like maybe Van de Ven or Christian Romero gets on the ball, and then Manchester United is going to choose to press. And in the first 45 minutes, it was very effective because Manchester United was pressing really well. We were really compact. Our structural discipline was so nice. Like every player knew their position, and this is something I'm beginning to like in Manchester United, because you could see that in game, in and out of position, we are beginning to have like a structure. Every player knew their position. They know where they're supposed to be in and out of position. They know which and which not have spaces to occupy in games. And it was really nice. Our pressing was so effective. We were causing a lot of turnovers. I think at some point in the game, Tottenham had just had like one touch in the opposition half. In Manchester United half, like we were really solid in our pressing. Manchester United, we were so strong, we were so physical, and we were well on the front foot when we were pressing Tottenham, and it was making them to give us the ball. We were causing a lot of turnovers. Our central backs were so brave and so aggressive, and so everything was going well for Manchester United. But you could see that Manchester United has been facing this for a very long time, and which is whenever we don't seem to carry out tactical ideas or execution for 90 minutes of the game, Manchester United can play well for 70 minutes, and there comes that sudden dip, that sudden loss in concentration, and suddenly we don't know what we are doing anymore. And it was very evident in the Tottenham game. You could see that Manchester United from the second half, we were so passive in and out of position, both in open play and both during goal kicks. Our pressing was not really aggressive, and that actually started when we started making substitutions. And so this is something that Manchester United needs to work on if we want to be a good pressing side. I feel that to an extent we should be able to press for a longer period of the game without getting tired, or without dropping that concentration or that aggressive level or that physical level. So this is something that it was really a positive, especially in the first half. We were so good at it, but from the second half there was a drop, particularly because Manchester United started making a lot of changes. And also you could see when we were previewing the Nottingham Forest game, it was something I really spoke about how Ahmad was connected to the back five instead of the midfield, which actually made Manchester United pressing structure to not be really good. So we were in the 5-3-2 shape out of position, and it was really bad because there was a lot of half spaces between Casemiro that Hudson-Odoi and Nico Williams were exploiting. So Manchester United had to deal with a lot against Nottingham Forest. But you will see Ruben Amorim did his homework very well. And in the Spurs game, we were not really facing that. Mascherano was pressing really high, was pressing the Spence really high. So he was connected to the midfield instead of connecting to the back four. So that was actually positive for Manchester United in that game, because in terms of our pressing, we were so good, and in terms of Mascherano pressing high to cover those hard spaces behind, he was also very good. So kudos to Manchester United and Ruben Amorim. It was really positive, but we still have a lot to unlock. So guys, another aspect of this game we want to look at is how Ruben Amorim was able to use a dropper in this game, and I know many of you might be really confused on what the dropper is, so we are going to explain that shortly. So what Ruben Amorim was looking to do, that what Manchester United is in possession, definitely, of course, you know that we build up in a 3-4-3 shape or a 3-2-3 shape out of position. So what Manchester United was looking to do, that when we are building up, we are definitely going to spot Brian Mbeumo in the middle, and definitely Brian Mbeumo is the dropper that Ruben Amorim was using. So Brian Mbeumo is definitely going to drop deep to receive the ball. And when he drops deep to receive the ball, definitely the CM, the central midfielder of the Tottenham Hotspur team, is definitely going to be carried away by his presence, and then he's going to drop deep. And then when he drops deep, he's definitely going to give Manchester United the leverage to break the press. So guys, let me give you guys an actual example. So first of all, you know that Manchester United, we set up in a 3-4-3 shape in possession, and then the Spurs players that are going to pick up the central midfielders, they are going to pick up the attacking line, everybody is going to pick up the normal players they're supposed to pick up. So what is going to happen is that Brian Mbeumo is going to drop deep, and when Brian Mbeumo drops deep, of course the central midfielder is going to be swayed by his presence, and then the central midfielder is going to try to block Brian Mbeumo. And so when he immediately tries to block Brian Mbeumo, Manchester United is going to beat the press of Tottenham Hotspur, because Casemiro is definitely going to be, or Bruno Fernandes will be 2 versus 1 in the midfield. They are going to have time to receive the ball. And when they have time to receive the ball, of course, Casemiro is definitely going to play to Brian Mbeumo, who is going to play to Ahmad, and definitely the press of Tottenham Hotspur is going to be beaten. And so in another situation, you're going to find out that in another example, Manchester United are actually building up from the back, and you could see that the fullback of Tottenham Hotspur is trying to close down Dogu. And then since Poro is trying to close down Dogu, Brian Mbeumo drops deep as a dropper. And then the central midfielder immediately spots the movement of Brian Mbeumo. And then he's going to cover Brian Mbeumo, which is definitely going to give Bruno Fernandes a lot of time to receive the ball at the middle of the park. So when Bruno Fernandes receives this ball, it's going to give him time to release the ball into Brian Mbeumo as the press of Tottenham Hotspur is actually beaten. And then in another situation, you are going to find out that Dogu and Brian Mbeumo actually interchange position. So Brian Mbeumo is in the left wing back position, while Dogu is in the left end position. And so it was actually done on purpose to give the fullback and the central midfielders like a pressing dilemma. So in this situation, before the ball comes, Luke Shaw is building up from the back. And so before Luke Shaw brings the ball to access that half spaces, of course, Manchester United are playing in a 3-man back. So it's very easy for us to easily access those half spaces, because we have a wider range of a backline. So when Luke Shaw accesses that space, and before he plays the ball into the half space, there's going to be some sort of interchange between Dogu and Brian Mbeumo. And so once there's that interchange, it's going to give the fullback and the CM a pressing dilemma. And since there is that interchange, definitely it gives Bruno Fernandes or a midfield runner the opportunity to take the ball and then try to attack. So this was definitely one of the tactics and definitely one of the strategies that Ruben Amorim was used to bypass the press of Tottenham Hotspur, giving our midfielders 2 versus 1 overload in the middle of the park, and then we can be able to beat the press of Tottenham and then try to counter as much as possible. So from a tactical point of view, this was a really brave tactics from Ruben Amorim to break the press of Tottenham Hotspur. So guys, one of the biggest long-term views of or positive from this game is definitely how the central backs play. And it was something Ruben Amorim spoke about, that definitely in the long term, our central backs are going to be very quality on the ball, and they are going to sort of dictate how Manchester United is going to play. So if you look at that game, you're going to find out that in and out of position, our central backs, they were so good. David Maguire and Luke Shaw was so good. They were so good on the ball. They were also good out of possession. They were good in pushing up, in being brave, keeping the offside trap. Manchester United was so good, especially in the defensive department. In the first 45 minutes, they were so good. And when we want to talk about how they played in possession, Manchester United, you know that last season I analysed a lot that Manchester United were finding it hard to pass into those midfield runners, into the number 10s, into the free midfielders. It was so hard for them to spot who play into those half spaces, just as Ruben Amorim definitely played in his Sporting days. But you could see that Manchester United are beginning to adapt to the system, and Ruben Amorim is beginning to utilize the central backs the way he wants. And you could see that Matthias De Ligt, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, they were constantly playing into those half spaces. They were playing really well, and it was so good to watch, because Manchester United, even when they were pressed, they were very patient. They were recycling the ball. It was so good. Even though they were pressed, it was something that the recycling was so good. If Manchester United couldn't play to the half spaces, definitely we recycle with San Lenamas. Everything was going really well, but it was something that did not really last for a long time, which we are going to be going into in a bit. And then out of possession, you know that we analyzed in the Forest game that Luke Shaw and De Ligt was, and even though they were not really tight on our opponent, Gibbs White was having a lot of chances on the half spaces. Hudson-Odoi was having a lot of spaces, Elliot Anderson a lot of spaces. They were not really aggressive like they were in the Brighton game. So there was not a lot of aggressiveness. We are not really playing that aggressive. They were not really brave like they were in the Brighton game. And if you look at how Manchester United played in this Forest game, you're going to realize that Ruben Amorim actually did his homework. It was so nice. Manchester United, our white central backs was so brave. They were pressing so high. You could see that Luke Shaw was definitely playing in the midfield for longer periods of the game. He was following Javi Simeons all over the place. And then especially for Matthias De Ligt, he's having a wonderful season. You could see that he did a very good job with Richarlison. He was constantly jumping into those tackles. They couldn't play into the half spaces into Richarlison because Matthias De Ligt was constantly stepping into the midfield. He was stepping into tackles. He was jumping into tackles. He was really big. And so this was something that we actually struggled in the Nottingham Forest game. But you could see in the Spurs game, it was something that Manchester United actually found pleasure in doing. So overall, our central backs are beginning to adapt to how Ruben Amorim wants to play in terms of jumping into tackles, how they want to play into position. So definitely, it was one of the positives that we had to note in this game. So guys, overall we did not win the game, but I think there's a lot of positive. I just feel that when it comes to our 1v1 battles, our individual battles, winning of duels, winning of our structural compatibility, Manchester United has actually improved a lot from the beginning of the season, obviously, because there was a lot of things, tactical issues that Ruben Amorim needed to change. I also spoke about it here on Tactical Trafford. But it seems like Ruben Amorim has evolved. He has done a lot of things right. But I just feel that when it comes to Manchester United conceding a lot of goals, I think it's not really down just individually to tactics, but I think it is actually down to a lot of other factors. I think concentration levels, especially after the first half and before the full time, Manchester United team, there seems to be this loss in concentration, this deep in concentration, and it's really, really bad for Manchester United. We might be winning now and then all of a sudden we are not winning again, and this is something that Manchester United needs to change. We need to have a very good concentration level. We need to be really great in games. Our concentration level needs to be there, because in terms of winning our individual battles, in terms of playing really well, in terms of being really aggressive, really compact, really strong, we are definitely doing that. But I think there's something still lacking, which is obviously the concentration levels of the teams. Most of the times we really fall. So, and you could see that in the second half, we were intentionally inviting pressure, which was so nice. At some point, Mr. Mount was visibly telling the players to push out and try to, press them and try to play on the front foot. But the players were just backwards. So this is something that I'm sure Ruben Amorim is going to work on before the Everton game. So, guys, I want you guys to like, to share, to subscribe to Tactical Trafford, as we'll be making more videos, more analysis on Ruben Amorim and the system at Manchester United. So see you guys in my next video. Ciao.